We live.
Woo! We live. Hey, so welcome back to episode 2. This is the DI Doc Show. You can call me Gutter. That's Sly right there. Like I said before, sorry for the inconvenience, the wait. Episode 2. Let's just say life was lifing, but we're gonna make it. Consistency is what kills the negativity. So short synopsis of the DI and Doc show. We're just trying to inspire the young minds, the older minds of people in the military to spark new ideas and or information they never heard of just to be better. So, like I said, credit is one of those things that young troops don't know about or simply just miseducated on. So we're gonna hit 5 factors today. We're gonna let Sly take it. So Sly.
What's going on? so, as we talk about the five factors, right? So, as you look at the slide above you, that you can see, we're talking about five factors that create your credit scores. All right, and one of those first factors is going to be payment history, right? It talks
Yep.
about have you paid your credit accounts on time? Being timely is a huge thing that a lot of us, when the life start life and we kind of get away from those particular things. But that has to be paramount and to be a primary thing that you do and it should always be on your mind because that covers 35% of your credit score. All right. Now, what the payment history shows, right? So it says payment history shows how you've paid your accounts over the length of your credit. Now, I know it seems as if this is very simplistic, right? But as military members, a lot of times you got deployments, you know what I'm saying? You got kids things going on, you got bills coming up, you got workups, you got all of those different things that's coming about. Do you set your stuff on an automatic pay? Right? That's a great option to do that. Um, or if you don't like to do that, do you budget? And then you do an intentional budget to make sure that you are covering the first and the 15th um, different bills that you have coming up. So payment history is huge because when you look at your chunk of your score, that 35% is going to be based off that payment history. Now, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just want to expound on that. So basically, a breakdown of what he's saying is just saying you is either set your bills on auto pay or set a reminder in your phone because in this time and age, everybody's on their phone. Set a reminder on your phone, pay your bills because, like you said, when people pull your credit when you want to apply for things, they check that and then to see if your payment history jacked up, it kind of puts you more at a risk. Though, back to what Slide was saying is like, you know, life be life, and but these are one of the things you got to keep. You got to keep up is paying your bills on time. But back to you, Sly.
Yeah, so as young service members, right? That's kind of that target audience that we're talking to. Like you're less than 7 years in, or you're right at that 7 year mark. This is what um, can hurt you when you're trying to get the things that you want, and that's a big thing, right? So if you're talking about cars, you're talking about a lot of the intangible things. I mean, the tangible things that you choose to want to go get. The reason why it hurts you is because the interest rate goes up when you have bad credit. So because your interest rates go up when you have bad credit, it puts you in a very precarious position. So payment history is your first thing. Pay things on time, right?
Yeah.
Revolving credit, any of those major things, retail credit cards, all of that stuff needs to be paid on time. Now, if you don't know if you're going to pay it on time, just pay it off.
Yeah.
Just pay it off. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things that you know, G over there will tell you is it's easier just to pay something off and put it away, right?
Yeah.
Put it in the closet somewhere, and then you don't have to use it at that present point in time. Um, so payment history, big thing, big thing, big thing. All right, we got next with what we
We
got,
got
G?
30% amount owed. How much do you owe, and how much of your available credit have you used? So the practice that most citizens or most people should practice is like not maxing out your cards. That's the thing. Not maxing out your cards because unless you got a sufficient amount of cash to do the things you want to do and pay it off like crazy, okay, you could be a cowboy if you want. You go do that, but the practice that most citizens should use or troops should use is trying to like overall, let's say overall that you have $100,000 in available credit, and let's just say you use 30% of that. You know, you have some experts say use 30, you should be good, this, that, and the other, and you have other experts that say don't use no more than 10%. So I'm saying is this: people, you're going to do whatever you want to do. Just be smart about it. But use those guidelines to help guide you. If you know you're going to use over 10%, but you're not going to go over 30, so that's your leeway. Do that. It's okay to do that. The, the main objective is, like you said before on the payment history, is pay it off. If you know you're going to go that high, pay it off because it reflects when you pay your credit card earlier. Early and on time are the best ways to go. So like the other practice, some people say the 10% method, don't go no more than 10%. So that means if you have $100,000, don't go no more in credit, don't go no more than 10,000. It shouldn't affect you. But so like he said, these affect you on the things you want when people run your credit and they see like, oh, this guy has over $100,000 in credit, and they see, the bank see, the job see, like, okay, he's managing his credit well, so we can give this guy a higher lump sum of money at a low APR. So that's the main goal right there is amount owed. So like I said, keep your usage low. Now, are we all victims of sometimes maxing out our cards? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we are. Like you said, you being a troop and like life is life, and like you're like, damn, I got kids, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. It happens. We know it happens. So we're both service members. Those times of our lives come up and they come up unexpectedly. Like, say for instance, you own a house and say if like your water heater goes out. I mean, hey, like you need a water heater unless you want to have the whole family doing cold showers. You know what I'm saying? You need a water heater, or say like a pipe burst, and let's just say your insurance doesn't only kind of covers only 60% of what needs to be done. You got to pay the rest out of pocket. So in some cases, you're it's going to happen. You're going to have to use more than 10% or 30% because emergencies happen. But like in another episode, and then and we will get to about budgeting. Like you should have 6 months worth of savings, monthly savings saved up. So, but we're going to get into that next time. So basically, moral of amount owed is keep your usage low. So when stuff does happen, or when you do apply to get stuff or get a mortgage, a car note, or stuff like that, you're available for the bigger benefit. So keep the usage low. So next, Sly's going to hit that.
Well, hold on. Let me piggyback off that real quick.
Okay.
And from a totality standpoint, credit is chess, is not checkers, right?
Yes.
So when you're talking about credit, you have to have somewhat of a strategy, and it's the long game. Yes. It's not the short game. And when you typically think of being on orders or having a 5-year, 7-year, or 8-year contract, right?
Yeah.
You have to take that in consideration when you're making moves, right? So because credit is the long game, right? Patience comes in with credit. Strategy comes in with credit, right? So even with the payment history piece and the amount owed, right? Yeah. So amount owed, we talked about 30%, 10% rule. Any rule that you choose to use is valid.
Yeah.
In turn with that, it's going to take time. This is not going to happen overnight. This is a 6-month, 12-month, 24-month process in order to properly manage this whole credit situation, this credit philosophy. All right. 35% for the payment history. That means whatever you have out there, you're paying on it. That's 35% of your credit score. So if you're paying on it on time and or you're paying ahead of time, what that shows whoever you're borrowing that money from, that shows them that you're dependable. And if you're dependable, then your credit worthiness goes up, right? Next, that 30% of the amount owed. You want to have way more credit available or usage available than what you have already used. Now, the strategy is keep your cash in the account, you leverage your credit, but be able to pay off the debt at any time that you need to. Okay?
Bars.
At any time that you need to, because your cash could be leveraging an investment somewhere. Your cash could be utilized for something totally different if you're utilizing a credit card or any type of thing of that nature. So amount owed also helps build up your credit score positively when you keep it below that 30%, no matter which particular revolving line of credit that you might utilize. All right. Primarily, you're looking at credit cards, car notes, like Gutter said, you're looking at home loans, things of that nature, right? So those are the things that you can take in consideration as far as keeping the amount below 30%.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to jump into that 15% length of credit history. How long have you been using credit? Now, let's take the moment to think about this. For the junior Marines, sailors, soldiers, etc., if you started any type of account that will reflect on your credit at 18, 17, etc., that is going to start your credit usage length of credit or the history of your credit. That's the beginning. You want to always maintain something for a long period of time that you paid on time and that you keep it below 30%.
Let me expound on that right there.
Please.
So length of credit history, right? So this is the trick. Most people don't know. Some people do. Like some people are set up. Mom, dad has great credit. They sign their kids on when they're 16. They're ahead of the game. You know what I'm saying? So they're
Preach.
ahead of the game. They put their kid as an authorized user on their credit. So their kid's credit shoots up to a 790,
Bars.
750,
Bars.
right? And so when it's time for that son or daughter, freaking what they do, they apply for their own credit. Now they're getting these high limit credit cards, right? That's going to overall help them in the long run. They still got mom and dad freaking history on their thing, on their report. Then they apply for their own personal credit. So basically, the system is looking like, oh, damn, you've been having this for 2 years already, this, that, and the other at 16. Then by the time they get 18 and they start to apply for their own stuff, it's easy money. Then, sometimes they remain authorized users for a long time on their dad's or mom's credit, and they just ride that wave. A lot of people don't do that, but some reason, let's be honest, is everybody's parents' credit up to par? No, but it's still hope for you when you turn 18. It comes to, like Sly said, it has to be chess. You got to know what part and what bureau to go for, that's going to help you out on that. And I strongly believe, my opinion, is the length of credit history. You have a strong credit report. You should have a strong credit report for like 10 years of like all the factors you see on this thing. A 10-year strong credit report with a 790 or something like an 800s, you're unstoppable. you're pretty much unstoppable if you think in the chess mindset of, hey, I know in the future I want to buy a car, I want to buy a house, I'm going to have a family, I'm going to need this. Like some people I know, they have emergency credit cards along with emergency cash. So just in case the heck they get too hectic, they got either or, you know? It depends on what they want. You have the choice, you have the options. Like, but if you don't take care of your credit, it's less options you have. You
Now,
got
just to pick, let me piggyback on some of that.
yeah.
I did a proof of concept a couple of years ago. So I took my oldest son. He was about at the time maybe 19 or 20. Proof of concept was this: he had no credit to begin with, right? He had a bank account, but and that was pretty much it. So what I did was I put him on one of my credit cards that have a zero balance, and I left him on that card for 6 months. And then what we did was we pulled his credit report. Now at that 6 month mark, right, it just showed a trade line, and it showed very much that we could really work with. But at the 8 month mark, we went ahead and had him apply for another credit card through another company. I want to say I think it was Chase, right?
Yeah.
He applied through Chase, and immediately they gave him anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 in credit.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my starter proof of concept. So then I did it with my daughter, who's right behind him, and then same thing applied with her. Right at that 6 to 8 month mark, she got a credit card that was pushing about 10,000. Then I did it with my third son. So as you see, what I'm trying to show you here is the
Yeah.
fact that this is chess, not checkers. And if you want to set your children up correctly and give them a good fighting chance, you have to go ahead and start to work these situations right at that 18, 19-year mark. Some of them you can go as low as 16, 17. Now, other cultures are looking to this particular piece. If you ask your friends that of a different hue than you, a lot of times you will find out if your family is not already doing it, somebody else's family has been doing it,
Yep.
especially the ones that work in that financial world.
Yep.
You, as a service member, you know what you're capable of. You know where your credit scores are at. You know that you want to do well for your child. Everything from doing the college funds, etc. The next best thing that you can do for your child is set them up with good credit. And this is what we're talking about when we start talking about credit scores. Chess, not checkers. Remember, chess is a strategy in order to get that king.
Yep.
Checkers is pretty simplistic, right? So when you have to think about the long term, right, the long haul, right, and you're trying to get yourself to make sure that not only are you getting to where you need to be, but you want to make sure your kids don't go through what you went through. This
Yep.
is a perfect example of doing that.
So let me expound on that. So if you don't want your kids to go through what you went through or what you saw your parents go through, you're gonna have to stop. Stop like, hey, one of these weekends, you ain't going out. We're gonna talk about just credit, what you do with a budget, how to budget. You got to sit them down. You have to educate yourself to educate them. Because I'm pretty much, if you don't educate them, they're going to do what they see. So if they do what they see and you're not doing what you say, a lot of parents are like, do as I say, but not as I do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have to understand the child's mind. And you have to you have to lead by example. Same way you do in the military. If you don't lead by example, who's going to take you serious? They ain't no you serious. Your kids do the same thing. They're going to take you serious. They just know, like, on this certain thing right here, I'm not going to listen to you about because you're not doing it. So you got to practice being frugal or practice of using that credit card as low and usage low as possible. Like have available usage, but so you gotta really think on that. You have to educate yourself to educate your kids so you can set them up. Because once kids, you're not thinking about yourself no more. And what happens? A lot of people in the military have kids.
That's true.
They have
Definitely
kids.
true.
Like they have kids. Let's be honest. Like It's either before deployment or after deployment. When the person comes home, they're going to have kids. So, like I said, like set yourself up while you're 18, or use your parents' wave, and we go from there. And we go there. So we're gonna hit this next subject. Is
Now, hold on. Let me go on a little bit on that one too.
oh, you want to
Another,
go on?
yeah. Just another strategy when he just to piggyback off what he was talking about. Another strategy is you can use the strategy of spend intentionally. Now, this strategy is a strategy that I heard in conversations through my travels. Spend intentionally, meaning you don't have to say the term budget or the word budget, right? Because budget to some people is
Scary word.
a scary word or a bad vibe,
Yeah.
or it's something that makes them feel restricted. If you spend intentionally, right, what that does is mentally that changes the capacity of how you do things. Once again, strategy, right? Long term or short term. So spending intentionally means that you take every dollar that you make and you put it in some type of pot. All right. Savings, investments, um, bills, petty cash, what you're going to blow this week.
Your
Spend
money
intentionally.
should have a purpose.
There you go. Purpose
Yeah.
with your money. Every
Yeah.
dollar should know where it's going. Now, if you use that strategy, then what you will soon see is that intentional spending where every dollar has a purpose, then every time you spend that dollar, it's going to something intentional that you already allocated it for.
Yeah.
As you lateral that over, let's lateral that over to some real world stuff, right? If you're an accountant, right? If you deal with supply, so supply deals with money, right? You got to balance the books. You got to balance it to zero. You can't have any excess either or, right? You're not supposed to be in the red or the black, okay? So you got to have a zero balance to balance everything out. Another example, you worked at a cash register in a fast food restaurant, right? You got to count that. You got to count everything back down to zero, and then whatever's left over, you give it over to whomever you need to give it over to, right? So you got to track every dollar, every dime, and in order to do that, you got to spend intentionally. All right. And as we transition from that spending intentionally, there's 10 types of credit used. Notice how it just says 10 types of credit used. All right. What is your mix? Is the question.
Got it. So my mix is, obviously I got a car loan, I got a truck. You got your credit cards. Do I have a student loan? Yes, I have a student loan. Do I have a mortgage? I do not. Do I have any retail cards? I really don't have retail cards. But at the same time, what Sly's trying to say, 10% is types of credit used. So basically, I put it like this. Think types of credit used. Think of it as New York. What is New York known for? A melting pot. A melting pot of cultures. So you got to think like this. You got to think like, all right, cool. I got a credit card. There's many people with great credit scores. They only have credit cards, but they still get denied. You know why? Because your credit report is not structured, it's not strong enough. They're like, okay, I hate to say it. I mean, you're. I'm not going to say you're a word to the system. You're pretty much have to abide by the rules of the system.
Is it
And
system?
that's
Yes. Yep.
you know what I'm saying? So you have to abide by the rules. So the rules is it's like, okay, you got a good credit report. Okay. I see that you got student loans that's been paid off. Cool. You got a mortgage note that you pay on time, 35% pay history. I see that. I see that you got credit cards from Chase, Wells Fargo, maybe some of your federal credit unions and stuff like that. You got to have a mix. Retail cards from stores, Old Navy, Dig Sporting Goods, or Target, or Walmart, like that. Like, it's a mix of everything. Is it wrong to have all those credit cards? No.
No.
If you can manage on them, yes. Like, if you can manage all this, which you should be, like, because it's your finances, get the cards. 10% of types of credit used is 10%. even though it's 10%, but it's like I put it like this: even though it's 10%, strong 10%. It's a strong 10%. Like
The
say,
diversity in there. Yep.
yep, like I said, like it's a person with a mortgage note they've been paying on time for the last 3 years. A person that got retail cards with great payment history and low usage, and they had these cards for a long time. A person with credit cards from banks that kept the usage low and they got a lot of available usage. And let's just say, like, hey, I need a personal loan to go do something or I want to go invest with. What happens is whoever you go to apply for this loan from and they do a credit check and your thing and your report is kicking, bro, they gonna throw that money at you. Easy. They
Easy
go
go.
they're gonna throw that money at you. If you have a great credit report, they're gonna throw the money at you. And you you just got to be smart. Some people don't know, like some people don't know when you got these great credit reports and you apply for a certain amount of money and they can give you more and you get this much amount of money to do investments with, they don't know what to do with it. Don't blow it, don't this, that, and the other. So
Everything, and there's some, and to piggyback on that, right? This is an algorithm, right? Just like YouTube algorithm, TikTok algorithm, Instagram algorithm. If you learn this algorithm, you could maximize everything in your life because then you will have the access to the capital that you're trying to utilize or which that you need to utilize in order to multiply your finances. Okay. And so that's another major thing with those 10 types of credit, right? So when you bouncing that out, you got that revolving credit, installment credit. You have all of these different mixtures, but once you figure out the algorithm, that algorithm then can propel you to that next level or where you're trying to get to. Remember, strategy, chess, not checkers. You can get there if you have that discipline, right? We're in the service, so we understand discipline. Have that discipline for a short period of time in order to see some progress. When you see progress, that changes the narrative. Okay, that changes the narrative because then once you see that credit score jump from that 630 to 650 to 680, now you're like, oh, I get it now, right? Consistency, like you talked about, that consistency and having that mixture of credit definitely helps out with everything that you're trying to do because that algorithm needs that in order to properly score you. And a piece of that algorithm touches on new credit, that other 10% of new credit. And that 10% of new credit is in the last 12 months or in the last 15 months or the last 24 months, did you apply for new credit? And if so, what kind? Okay. So the big major types of credit is something G talked about was the mortgage, right? The car loans, unfortunately, student loans, if you do have them. But those other credit cards that are out there, those Visas, those MasterCards, American Express, etc., you got to pace yourself with those, okay? Because as you pace yourself with those can help you more when you pace them out. Because if you're, how you say, if you're out there putting in for new credit every 2 months, that algorithm is going to look at it negatively, right?
Or flag you, too many inquiries.
Exactly. You got to get those inquiries down. So you have to look at the algorithm and manipulate the algorithm. All right. Now, in manipulating the algorithm, this great mix of credit will help create your credit score. And then the credit score that you're shooting for out of what is it, 800? You want to get somewhere in that particular realm is to get to that 800.
800 to 850 round. That's the range. So I'm just gonna go over something real quick. So very poor is 300 to 579. Fair is 580 to 669. Good is 670 to 739. Very good is 740 to 799. Exceptional is 800 to 850. So that's what you can figure you can pull this information up anywhere. And like I said, this right here, if you want to expound on certain things, you can just look at that and that should tell you. If you want more information, you can just look it up because the information's everywhere. We're in the digital age now. We're in the information age where your phone can literally consist of maybe 12 libraries worth of knowledge. So you gotta it's no reason where you cannot figure out this information. But if you need some expansion of the terms and what is the information, that's why we created DI and Doc. Because sometimes I see this, what is it? I see this, but people be like, I still don't know. But if, like you said, we put a personal story to it, some people understand that better. Like, oh, okay. Or you put a personal story or talk about your personal use with it. Like you said, you'll know. So you really got to think. Like, we're expounding this much on everything, and we're trying to get it out to young troops, older troops, retirement troops, or whoever. Like, we're trying to hit up Marines, sailors, soldiers, Coast Guardsmen, Air Force people. I don't know what you call them.
Airmen. There you go.
Airmen?
Yep, airmen.
Okay, all right, cool. Airmen, and we're just trying to reach out to all those people and just basically educate. So basically, my personal belief is, if you do 20 something years in the military and you're getting all this information to spark a good idea to go down a good route, you should have an option if you want to work after the military, not because you have to work. That's right. That's my whole point of DI and Doc. My whole point of DI and Doc, to spark an idea, you somehow expound on it, go chase after it. Cool. Like when we talk about investments, life insurance, and stuff like that, you get that idea and you run with it and you figure it out. And you're like, what average retirement rate, average retirement age, what, 40, 42?
What are you talking about? What's ours in the military?
No, I'm just at the retirement age of, like in the military, like after your 20s, like 40, 42 to 45.
Yeah, so you're eligible for retirement after that first 20 years, right? So that means if you join at 18, you already know at 38, you're eligible for retirement. What G is saying is, be intentional with your expectations and what you're trying to do. If you know overall you want to retire from the service and possibly not have to work again, right? You got to be intentional in the beginning. Your first 1 to 3 years, you got to be intentional. Set yourself up on that 5-year plan. Now, remember, intentionality in these scenarios is you just putting a process together, putting a routine together, and sticking to that routine. Yep. And that means that routine is how you routinely spend your dollars. Think about it from spending, not so much saving. Because if you spend money, i.e., you're putting money into a savings account, so you're spending that money, right? It's coming out of your hand, going to that savings account. That can then help you with that process piece, because now you got an investment account that you spend your money, takes it out of your hand and put it in that investment account, and it follows on and on. And as you do that, that then reflects on your credit score, because you can't hold on to the cash. And I think a lot of times people have an adverse a first thought process to credit, because some old school individuals are like, hey, look, whatever I got in my mattress, I'm solid on.
Yeah.
About between 5 and 10% of companies in this day and age are now going cashless, right? Because there's a risk, right? The risk that you run when you have cash at the register is, if you do go through a robbery, whether it's from your your employees, or if it's somebody from the outside, right? You're losing that cash, and cash is typically not trackable when it comes to those situations. But that credit, if you leverage the credit the right way, that credit can then foster an environment to where you can flourish. And then that's where that intentionality comes into play. You'll be able to flourish. And as you, those service members, you have to take in consideration those particular pieces. If you know about this stuff already, then we're not talking to you. Okay.
Yeah.
We're talking to those individuals who unfortunately were not financially educated and didn't understand how to leverage their position within the government. And that leverage comes with the consistency of a first and 15th paycheck. Now you can allocate or spend your money accordingly, and you can manage what we just talked about when it comes to credit scores and properly balance yourself within that algorithm to leverage their actual result, which will be anywhere between that 740 to 800 plus score. That is very good to exceptional. Now you're not paying as much for that car. You're not paying as much for that house. You're not paying as much for, some of those retail cards that charge you some high interest rates. This is why we're here, to give you that discussion, to pass on that experience, to give you that real world viewpoint that we see and we do here every day. What you have right here is over a good almost 40 years of experience between me and Gutta up there, that we're talking about service related financial management.
Yeah.
And we're going to give you the uncut, raw verbiage. We're not those financial planners that keep coming, or those FSAs that be coming to see you at a battalion all call or at a all hands meeting. We're telling you real, actual facts, things that have happened that worked good and things that didn't go so good. That's why we're here, to give you the information, because most of us didn't get the information when we were in your position.
Yeah, we sure didn't. So this is basically on my ending note of this. So 5 factors that create your credit scores: payment history, amount owed, length of credit history, types of credit used, and new credit. We basically hit the wickets, and which, like he said, is chess. But guess what? I got a question. I got a statement. Chess, for the people who are uneducated on these terms and these processes, but this may be checkers to the people who've been doing this for generations. I
Bars.
that's you got to think, like, for us right now, for us educating you, it's chess. Don't worry, we're gonna get you to the point where it's checkers. Like, oh, okay, all right, cool, okay. Like, we're gonna break down rewards points for credit cards, all that, and set and note and last note for me, it's uh every service member, if you on active orders or active reserve or how you do it, y'all should be have American Express Platinum. Y'all should have an American Express Platinum. Then once you get that American Express Platinum, you get that gold card for points to maximize points. That's my little gem right there. Like, maximize those points, because you could do a lot with points. We're gonna break that down on the episode. Like, you could be getting these reward points for staying at these hotels. Like you're saying, a lot of military people do what? Travel. They travel. That American Express Platinum card, what can that do? Get you in a lounge and you can eat for free. I'm not hating on the USO. Not at all. I am not hating on the USO. Not at all. But you know what I'm saying? If you can get some free high class foods and drinks, why not? If you could be in a lounge that's more comfortable for your family, like me, I got a big family. Sometimes I'll take a proportion, a third of the USO if my family come up in there. I got a big family, but if I go to that Centurion Lounge, that thing is way big. I'm just hitting up a little section. I'll have enough for a little section. So that's my little gem on my ending note. Gut, like, hey, if you're traveling a lot and you're in the military, get that American Express Platinum. Work yourself to the gold card. If you certain hotels, this, that, and the other, you need to research about reward points and stuff like that. Because, like you said, you never know what these reward points can offer you in the long run. They can give you gift cards. They can give you what you get. You get $20 a month of $20 a month for streaming services for the year. What else? I think your first year of clear, meaning you go through that big old line at the airport. Boom, you go to clear. You jumping in front of that. You jump in front of everybody. I remember one time I went to quick story. I went to the airport, got up a little bit late than usual. We walked up in that airport. I was like, I don't even know how I'm gonna get through this. Look, I said clear. Okay. There was a line wrapped around trying to get in TSA. I hit clear up. I bumped that whole line. I was back in my what is it? The hangar, not the hangar, the part of the section of the airport where I go for boarding and everything. I was like in 10 minutes.
You're at your gate.
If I would have not had that American Platinum card, that American Express Platinum card, I would have been in that TSA line for about like an hour and a half and missed my flight.
Benefits.
It's perks. It's perks of being in the military. It's perks of being in the military. You just got to use them. You just got to know about them. So that is my ending note for me. So you got an end note, Sly?
So I would say this. The actions you take now determine what you're able to do later. Always remember that. The actions you take now determine what you're able to do later. Retirement, traveling, everything you can think of. Always remember. And I'm out on that one.
All right, we out. DI and Doc, episode 2.